Hey guys, Richard here with CRG Games, and today starts our guide to selling cards online. So this guide is aimed at both new sellers and sellers that have already been in the in the works for a while. A little bit about me: I started last October on TCG Player with just a box of cards and some envelopes, and I did go out and buy a label printer. So I started with the label printer, but we're going to cover what you need without that as well. So hope you guys enjoy, and let's get into it. All right, so of course, with every guide, we've got a glossary. This is going to cover everything that we need to know to get started selling cards. I got a little introduction here. So if you don't already know, my name is Richard. I've been playing Magic since the Return to Ravnica block, and I've loved it ever since. I started out, playing Standard before I knew what Commander was with my buddies, and ever since I started, I've always had the goal of like buying one of every booster pack. And when I started in 2012, I had bought, probably 30 booster packs or something like that, all the way back to the Urza block, and I did open them all. I should have kept them, but like a lot of players, I've sold my collection a couple times and regretted it every time. But I played Yu-Gi-Oh when I was a kid. I played Pokemon when I was a kid. I don't play those two anymore, just exclusively Magic. So the goal of this guide is to give you guys the tools if you want to start selling cards, maybe producing a little bit of income or financing future purchases, to upgrade your decks. All right, so let's get started with everything you need to know to get started. So the basics. These are all of the items that I recommend you have or you start, getting in the process of getting. So you got storage boxes. Um, Obviously, it's going to be to store all your cards. The bubble wrap, packing tape, things like that. On the right side, we've got equipment. Those are also very important. And each one of these different sections kind of has their own, topic covered. So we'll start with BCW storage boxes. I use BCW pretty much exclusively, except for some Amazon no-name boxes that are similar. I do use those for shipping. I do also use the BCW boxes for shipping as well when it is warranted. So there are 4 boxes that I recommend you get. The first 2 are single row, 500 and 800 count storage boxes. Reason being is because those are nominal numbers, and the 500 count actually holds roughly 720 cards, and the 800 count holds roughly 1140 cards. So, respectively, the 500 count will hold an entire booster box. The 800 count will hold about 2 booster boxes of cards if you're cracking boxes. They also work for shipping. Not only shipping to buyers, but also if you get to the point where you join TCG Direct, you may have times where you've got over 1,000 cards you need to ship out to TCG Player. An easy and cheap way to do that is to put it in a storage box, a BCW storage box. It's already there, and it allows you also to have them in the format that TCG Player wants. But we'll get to that. These are sturdy boxes. They're made of 200-pound test strength cardboard, which means that they're going to get to the destination pretty much okay. And also, while you're storing cards, you can stack these things up pretty darn high, and they're not going to damage the cards inside. If you get the BCW Card House, the 800 count storage boxes, they fit right in there. You can actually buy that with or without boxes. Next, for more larger openings, you've got the Super Shoe storage box and the 5,000 count Monster storage box. These are my 2 favorite boxes that I use, and they're the ones that I recommend the most. So the 3,000 count Super Storage Shoe box, if you're opening a single case of draft boosters, this will hold that, and you'll have some room left over for your dividers because you're going to be sorting these alphabetically when you do that. And what I do is I'll crack a case. It gets held in one of these, and then I just label the front of the box with whatever set is in that box. And while I add inventory and pull inventory, it's all done out of that box. The 5,000 count is going to hold upwards of 7,000 cards. That is pretty much enough for 2 cases of draft boosters. And if you're doing set Obviously, it's going to have enough room. If you're doing collector, you could hold, I didn't do the calculations, but you could hold several cases of collector boosters in a 5,000 count box. Now, when those are full, they weigh about 28 pounds. So you want to make sure that you're lifting with your legs and not your back. And also you're careful that you don't drop it, because if you drop 7,000 cards, honestly, I would be like, all right, I'm just done. Because sorting cards, it's not the most fun. It's not the most fun I've ever had. It can be relaxing, but you don't want to do it twice. So be careful. At the time when I originally did this, these were rough prices for these boxes. As you can see, buying direct from BCW is the best price. Will get you the best prices on these boxes. You will have to buy a bundle to get these prices. A bundle's usually 25, like 10 or 25 boxes, depending on the size of the box. So just keep that in mind. Amazon, you can buy onesie twosies. TCG Player, you can buy onesie twosies. But on TCG Player, you're going to be paying the highest price. Don't buy boxes on TCG Player. It's that simple. All right, shipping supplies. These are all going to be all the things that you need to get your cards from point A to point B. And this is imperative to your feedback. Feedback's going to help you grow. And you need to make sure that you're staying at 100% or 5 stars or whatever metric you want to give it. Glue dots are going to be your best friend. They look like this. I started with the blues. I moved to the greens. The greens are classified as being removable. I only use the 3/16 inch. Highly, highly recommend getting the removable ones. The permanent ones, they're not that bad. You can use those, but when you're sticking the cards, granted they're in sleeves, when you're sticking the cards onto like a chipboard sleeve, the blue ones you got to put a little effort into pulling them off. They're not too bad. Just stick with the greens if you're afraid of that. With other use cases though, if you actually got to stick two things together and it doesn't matter if they get damaged, the blue's just fine. I have both. They're for different use cases. The other things that stick, you're going to need Scotch tape, packing tape, and painter's tape. Painter's tape comes in a couple different kinds. Usually it's going to either be blue or tan or cream or whatever you want to call it. They're both the same. They both work the same, so it doesn't really matter what you use. Scotch tape is going to be really helpful as well for a lot of different use cases. However, one of those use cases is not putting it on top loaders. Buyers don't want tape on their top loaders. I don't want tape on my top loaders. Nobody wants tape on their top loaders. I don't know how many times I have to say it or how many times the community has to say it. Do not apply Scotch tape to top loaders. Don't. Painter's tape's okay. Scotch tape, no. Packing tape, you're going to have to do boxes eventually. Whether it's a BCW box or it's a generic, XXX box, and those are the dimensions, length with height. You're going to need packing tape to pack those up. I buy those in cases on Amazon, usually at 6 rolls at a time, and that lasts me a little while until I need to get more. When in addition to the boxes and stuff like that, the protecting the cards as far as like its shipping solution is also really important. So bubble wrap, that's going to go in boxes and things to keep things protected. Bubble bags, I'm a huge fan of. They look like this. This is, I think, like a 4x3 or somewhere along those lines. And you could put cards in these booster packs, just everything. It's kind of like a team bag, but with extra protection. I highly recommend these. They usually come in stacks of about 100. You might be able to find them in 1,000. I usually buy a couple hundred at a time, and that lasts me a little while. And there's small ones, and then there's large ones. And I have a large one size as well. I use that for putting bulk cards in because you can put a bunch of it in there, and it's convenient, right? You don't have to go cutting different sizes of bubble wrap and stuff like that. Look into it. You don't need them to start out, but you probably should grab a roll of bubble wrap just in case. Penny sleeves and team bags are also important. Penny sleeves, obviously, to protect the cards. When you're shipping foils, you're probably going to want to put those in team bags. Your buyers will appreciate it. And in penny sleeves, it's going to keep them from getting scratched. and it's very easy for your foil to go from near mint to light play. So invest in penny sleeves. They're $1. If you don't buy penny sleeves to protect your cards, you're going to regret it. Team bags are nice because they can add moisture protection to your shipment as well. Highly recommend those. They are a bit more expensive, but you don't need them as often as you do penny sleeves. And then with envelopes, you can use really two different sizes, number 10 and 6 3/4. When I started out, originally, just 6 3/4. However, I swapped over to number 10. Reason being, I can run those through my printer much easier than 6 3/4. I get everything printed out on there, so it's good to go. You can either use the windowed ones or the non-windowed ones. I use non-windowed really because I don't want to fold up, the invoices so that the address is lined up perfectly. It's really personal preference at that point. If you do the windowed one, technically you would save on ink because you don't have to print the to address because it's already on the invoice, but it's really personal preference. The next thing is going to be, the hard part, not hard in doing, but the hard part of the shipping thing. So you've got top loaders, mini snaps, shipping shields, and you've got chipboard sleeves. Now, I use chipboards mainly because I can buy them in boxes of 1 to 3,000, which lasts me a good while. They're relatively inexpensive. They've got their pros and cons. Shipping shields are great because you can get those stamped with your logo. You get them customized. They're a bit more expensive, but they're kind of nice. Mini snaps, I use those for cards over $100. You need to be putting expensive cards in mini snaps. If it's over $100, put it in a mini snap. Your buyer will be appreciative of that. And then you've got your ubiquitous top loader. You may already have tons of top loaders from buying cards. I do. And probably 3/4 of those have tape on them. Don't put Scotch tape on your top loader. Don't do it. There's going to be a quiz at the end of this. It's going to be, what do you not put on top loaders? The answer, Scotch tape. There you go. All right. One thing to keep in mind when you're picking your solution here, if you're shipping these in envelopes, you need to be mindful of weight and rigidity and thickness, because envelopes can only be a certain thickness to ship through the USPS. Otherwise, they turn into like thick envelopes, which is a shipping category, or packages. So the rigidity part is important because that's going to determine whether you need to have it labeled as non-machinable. Now, the chipboard sleeves I like because they provide protection, but they're still somewhat flexible. So when you've got your cards in there, it's not going to trigger a non-machinable event all the time. Shipping shields, on the other hand, tend to be more rigid. I like them. They provide good protection, but because of their rigidity, you may need to use a non-machinable stamp. And it costs you a little bit extra. It's like 30 cents. But if you think you're going to need it, you probably do. And you probably should put that on there, because if you don't and it gets to the post office and they kick it back to you, you're going to have to pay to ship it out again. Again, I've got a price list here. These are rough average prices of all of these things when I did this back in August. They could have changed, but they probably haven't changed much. And that is going to conclude section 1. The next section we get to is going to be hardware. Now, these are the things that are going to save you the most time, and these are going to be more expensive purchases. So we'll get into that on the next one. I hope you do stop back in, and I hope you've learned something so far, from this presentation. I guess we'll call it a presentation. There's going to be multiple parts to this. If you like the video, go ahead and subscribe, like it, leave a comment. I will be answering comments if you've got questions, and I may answer them in the comments. I may also answer them at the beginning of the next video, and I think that might be what I actually do. That way I can provide more detailed descriptions, to everybody. So check back next time for part 2 when we get into the hardware and some other stuff. And until next time, I'll catch you later.